7.5 meters. That's our biggest one.
Good morning and welcome to vlog number 8. This week, as you can kind of see from all the wood behind me, we were at the sawmill. There's a private sawmill right in our little town, and we could take all of the trees we cut down over there. We got to help out and be part of the process, getting all of our wood ready. For me, it was probably the most enjoyable work week so far. I mean, just outside the whole time, sunshine, the smell of freshly cut wood. Let's take a look.
Okay, here we are, our very first day at the sawmill. Here's Emily, just waiting patiently for her walk to come. Anyway, we're about to start. Here's the first log, and it's about to get cut. Here we go.
Man was ausnehmen. Das ist cool. Das ist cool. Hey, was ist das?
We learned pretty quickly how things work. The sawmill operator operates the saw, and things move much more quickly when we stand by and move all of the cut pieces to the right location. So the first cut is usually bark, comes to the firewood pile. The next cut is usually a board that comes to the trimming saw, and after that we decide what to do with the block in the middle. We did get more efficient as time went on, and he had lots of tips and tricks for us how to move and manipulate the boards so they didn't seem so heavy. So it always started with bringing over the logs. So this is our pile here. Dominique drove the forklift quite a bit. And for example, things we didn't know, the 3 smaller logs on the bottom here, they're too small. They're actually firewood. Anyway, the logs get picked up and dropped off over here by the big saw. First job was often just to remove any little bits of dirt that could damage the big saw. And here we go. The log gets moved up onto the sawing platform, and the first cut is always just taking off a strip of bark, and the second cut is also just a board so we can get down to the center block. Before the second cut, a level is always held onto the side just to make sure that the beams that get cut are, nice and square. I got to learn a little bit how the saw actually works. A log is always measured from the center point, and then over here you enter the distance in millimeters for each cut, starting from the inside and working your way towards the outside. So every time it cuts and then the saw comes back, you just push the adjustment button on the side and the saw adjusts itself to the appropriate height all by itself. Some things that didn't work out perfectly. For example, these beams, the wood turned out to be such poor quality that we actually just cut it right on the saw band. Spacers for our piles later. Anyway, most of the wood turned out pretty okay and got taken away with the forklift and added to our pile. sawdust pile also grows pretty fast, so it gets shoveled together and actually picked up from a neighbor who uses it for their horses. No waste. Anyway, usually Emily wasn't allowed to watch because it's just too loud and flying sawdust, but she was in between walks right now, and I think she was pretty happy to get in on the action. Hi, Emily. And who would have thought? I actually got to operate the saw a little bit myself, with supervision and help, which was a good thing. You operate it manually with joysticks, and every time the saw reaches the end of the board, you send it up and bring it back. And once I almost sent it up when the blade was still in the tree, just kind of a centimeter. I hadn't let it run out enough. Luckily, we could stop, get everything back in order, and there was no damage done. But whew. Okay, let's continue. The next step was the edging saw. We could operate this ourselves. It's pretty simple. You could turn on the saw, turn on the conveyor belt, and adjust the width for each board. And the boards just come right on here. The 0 lines up with the bark, and this little tab marks the edge of the board. And one guy would push it through, and someone on the receiving end would put a nice steady pressure against it so it cuts straight. And the edge that got cut off came here, and our nice board came in our pile here. Right, so all of the edging, I spent some time collecting it, cut everything at meter lengths to be the spacers for our piles so they can dry nicely. Really a giant game of pick up sticks. Anyway, I'm so excited about the wood we have. This pile here is going to become a really nice fence around the bottom edge of our property. This little pile here are the spacers. These are the boards for underneath the piles. And here is kind of like my collection of special pieces. Honestly, I'm going to become like a hobby carpenter when we're done with fixing the house. This is going to be a sign maybe, or a nice shelf, who knows. Anyway, we also have to say the weather was great, except for this one epic thunderstorm that hit right in the middle of our day. Coffee and treats from the local bakery and waited it out. The saw blade has to get changed pretty regularly, sometimes every few hours. We're getting that ready to go. Me, yep. I'm back to my game of pick up sticks for the spacers. So before we take our first load of wood home, we just gotta throw in a thank you to Holt's Hooster. They were professional and relaxed, and it could not have worked out better. So, the next job, piling our wood at home. Our wood will need to dry for at least a year before we can use it, so it's important that we have really good piles so everything dries straight, which means 5 spacers per level. It took quite a bit longer to stack it than I expected. childcare at the construction site. Sometimes you just gotta be creative.
Megan, du brauchst Hilfe, ne?
Okay, so what you see here is just over half of the lumber we had cut. All of our piles here. This still needs to be piled, right? There's no spacers yet. Please ignore this garbage. We have another trailer to unload, and here are all the boards that are going to become our fence. So I'm really excited about the fence. It's going to be nice. And today, usually I have someone who comes and helps out and walks with the babies, usually my mother-in-law, but today it's just me and the little ones. Noah has snack time. Emily's sleeping. And my job is to deal with the spacers. So all of our spacers, most of them at least, have bark on them. And my job is to debark them all so that they can be used in our piles. Once again, this wouldn't have been possible without all the support and help with childcare, especially from our friends and family. So I think we're pretty grateful that we can make everything work that way. And nonetheless, there were lots of lovely moments with the little ones.
Did you feed her? Well, there you have it. Another week and a half almost behind us. We have a few more logs that we need to cut, and we do have to finish the last of our piles so everything's ready to dry. But soon we'll be ready to move on from the wood, Tima, and we'll be, as planned, back to the house. See you next time.